It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central from the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN. Now, you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Today, Behind the Glass Flying Aboard is a broadcast from our WCRN studios in Westboro. And you can also, of course, listen to the station anytime on the TuneIn app. We do stream there 24/7, like thousands of other radio stations do. Just punch in WCRN, and you will find us. You can also watch and listen, because I do stream the show live on my social media platforms, Joe Mangi Show, MANGI. So you can watch it on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, even Rumble in real time live. It's later loaded to the AUN TV network and Twitch TV. We also stream to the WCRN Facebook page. So go check that out. Do me a favor, give us a like and a follow while you're on our Facebook page. And that is WCRN 830 AM on Facebook. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. So Tuesday, January 4th, as the days count down a week, a little less than a week now, to President-elect Trump's inauguration, Pete Hegseth has been on the hot seat all morning with his confirmation hearing going on. I was able to catch Senator Elizabeth Warren, and she seemed to be just bitter that he didn't go meet with her one-on-one. I mean, it was kind of childish, to tell you the truth. So let's start about some things that have been on my mind. I've been following the headlines over the past few days. We've got stories of accountability, the lack thereof, at every level of our society, from wildfires out west to accusations, incompetence, outright deception among our elected officials. It seems like law and order is becoming a quaint phrase rather than the principle that we should be living by. And with the tragic and devastating Palisades fire out in California, now this fire, which has already burned about 24,000 acres, is being attributed to human negligence, likely from illegal fireworks on New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve. Now, the fires didn't start for another week, so I guess they were smoldering for a week and nobody noticed. Woo! Likely from illegal fireworks on New Year's Eve. You make your own adjustment, right? You make your own decision as to what you're going to. You take what they put out there, add some common sense to it, folks, okay? Think about that for a second. A careless act, completely preventable, has not only put lives at risk, but also consumed homes, wildlife habitats, irreplaceable natural beauty. And while investigators are closing in on the cause, it's a grim reminder that individual responsibility isn't just a moral duty, it's a civic one as well. But they also arrested an illegal alien driving or riding around a bicycle with a blowtorch while properties are burning around him. So maybe that is the human that made the error. Of course, it spread because of the neglect of forestry and clearing the brush. Water. Now, there's all kinds of competing stories as to why water wasn't in this reservoir and it was in that reservoir. But there wasn't water in fire hydrants, too. I guess it will shake out. I have more confidence of the truth coming out under this incoming administration than the current administration, given that the leadership in California, including LA, are all of the same party. So we see this time and time again. Ted, will you, Ted, We see this time and time again, folks, from reckless behaviors in fire-prone areas to lawlessness on the streets. We're living in a time where personal accountability feels like a dying art, right? We talk about protecting our planet, but when it comes to enforcing common sense rules, whether it's firework bans or maintaining defensible spaces around homes, there's a collective shrug of indifference until that disaster strikes. And people get a little pissed. Watch all the Hollywood elites posting on their social media. Speaking of accountability or lack of it, let's shift some attention here to D.C. because we've got Senator Richard Blumenthal, yeah, that one in Connecticut, who's once again stepping into the limelight with his vocal opposition to Trump's defense secretary pick, Pete Hegseth. Now, Blumenthal is calling him unqualified and even went so far as to call his nomination a joke. Now, I'm all for scrutinizing these nominees, and they should be. That's the process, consent, confirm, and all that. Vetting people for key positions is a cornerstone of a republic. But let's not forget who's throwing the stones here. This is the same Richard Blumenthal who lied about serving in Vietnam, a disgraceful act of stolen valor that he somehow managed to brush off with a half-hearted apology. And the gall of some people, folks, should he be a senator? I guess he got elected. So that says more to the people who voted for him than to them. To him, he's... Anyway, what's rich here is that Blumenthal's credibility is as flimsy as wet cardboard. Yet he's out there casting aspersions on Hegseth, a man who has served honorably in our military. Whether you like Trump's pick or not, let's not ignore the irony of someone like Blumenthal claiming the moral high ground on this particular nomination. But the theme of accountability doesn't stop there. Here in New England, we've got our own battles to fight, from reckless fireworks to the ongoing debate about how we enforce laws in our cities. We are watching the erosion of the principles that once made us great. Law and order isn't just a slogan, it's a foundation of a civilized society. When we fail to hold people accountable for their actions, whether they're elected officials, careless hikers, or even corporate executives, we're telling future generations that the rules only apply when it's convenient. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a glimmer of hope in all this. It's the firefighters out there on the front lines of the Palisades fire. These men and women are the epitome of service and sacrifice. While some people's negligence caused this mess, these heroes are out there risking their lives to contain it. It's a reminder that while we may gripe about what's wrong with our country, there are still incredible people out there who embody the best of us. And let's not forget the importance of individual preparation and community involvement. Whether it's having an evacuation plan in a fire zone or showing up at the ballot box, our participation in this grand experiment called America matters more than ever. So as we kick off today, let's talk about solutions. How do we bring accountability back to the forefront? How do we ensure that personal accountability isn't just a buzzword, but a bedrock principle? And how do we hold our leaders to the same standards they claim to uphold? So the phones are open and available. The line is 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. I'll get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation, and our text line is 617-297-8388. This whole Blumenthal thing was actually really, to hear him up there and the way that he talked, and thank goodness that some members of the board were, reminding that the qualification to be Secretary of Defense is pretty much you're a citizen. It doesn't require military experience. As a matter of fact, I think it says with military experience, you've got to have 7 years separation or you got to get a waiver. And I think the current Secretary of Defense came from Raytheon. Wasn't it a Raytheon guy? So I think Pete Hegseth has a lot of qualifications. as a decorated, Ted.
Yeah, I think this senator's trying to say that you're not from the group of people that we can control.
And Pete brought that up, that he's a disruptor, and that a lot of them sitting on that, mainly those on the left side of the aisle, don't want to upset anything. And there's the industrial, right, military industrial complex. They only make money when there is war. So if you got a commander in chief and a defense secretary who very much oppose boots on the ground in being entangled and believe in a much safer, peace through strength policy, then that would upset the apple cart. And in the questioning, Hexeth brought up a good point that we've actually fallen behind China militarily for the first time. For the first time, we became the dominant superpower on the planet militarily. Have we slipped from that spot? And China's dealing with 6th and 7th generation sonic fighters that we just aren't there yet. And we've got to fix that, because Biden is leaving Trump in this administration a dumpster fire in the sense of the world. We've got hot spots all over the globe right now, wars on two fronts. We've got China still threatening Taiwan, and they're all watching what we do. Did you want to?
So much for a smooth and cooperative transition.
Not to mention, really kind of dropping grenades on the way out the door, as well as funneling money into NGOs and trying to, stop the selling the parts of the wall, pennies on the dollar. That I forget his position, but he was on the Project Veritas undercover reporter when he was talking about how they were just told to get all the money out the door. It's, in his words, I'm not saying this, his words, it's like throwing gold bars off the Titanic. I mean, it's really trying to hand a flaming mess over to the Trump administration. But we have to take our first break here on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join the conversation, 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388. All right, folks, stick with us. Back on the other side in 2 and 10.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
This is Phil George, the biochemist from Wellness Wave Radio. Are you or a family member trying to find just the right college? Then let me introduce you to Anna Maria College in Paxton, Massachusetts. As a proud graduate myself, I can attest to the fact that Anna Maria is a beacon of personalized education. Unlike many large colleges, Anna Maria fosters a dynamic, close-knit community and one-on-one mentorship. Ready for something greater? Check out their website, annamaria.edu.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment here of the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, AM 830, WCRN Radio Central. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Lines are open, available, 508-871-7000. What say you? Well, working this morning, I did jump into the Freedom Radio Show. They asked me to come sit in. Actually enjoyed listening to what they had to say more than participating. It's a really great show. And on the management side of it, one of the shows I've gotten the most positive feedback about on the station is Health Freedom Radio. 508-871-7000. Rest of the day, I was trying to watch or keep on this TV streaming here. Pete Hegseth and the commission or the confirmation hearing. So he's the nominee for the Secretary of Defense. And look, he is facing a smear campaign over the qualifications here, over his personal beliefs, his leadership record with some organizations he's been involved with. Critics have attacked Hegseth even for the Christian tattoo that he has. The same cross, he has a tattoo of a cross that was on the program at Jimmy Carter's funeral last week. Same cross, implying extremism. Remember, his orders were canceled. He was ordered and scheduled to be part of the contingent that was protecting Joe Biden in his inauguration 4 years ago, and his orders were changed because they considered, because he was a Christian, he was an extremist. And they're implying that this Christian tattoo is extremism, and questioned his lack of high-ranking military credentials, despite his decorated service in Iraq and Afghanistan, in leadership, Concerned Veterans for America, the CVA. Allegations from former CVA employee Kate Duggan, right, have surfaced, but they're uncooperative. They're just accusations. We've seen that happen in certain judicial nominations. Accusations with no corroboration, nothing to back it up. The Senate Armed Services Committee has been accused of partisan delays, with critics citing a lack of access to Hegseth's FBI background check. Although I've heard many people talking about what it said, so I don't know what that means. A procedural argument that disregards long-standing norms. See, the attacks on Hegseth, including criticism of his faith, highlight broader concerns about religious freedom and the principle of civilian oversight of the military. Supporters argue that Hegseth's leadership skills and reform-minded approach are what the Pentagon actually needs right now, folks, particularly in the wake of failures under the current leadership. Because that had a lot to do with cabinet members couldn't even talk to the president because he was being managed, or he couldn't stay awake long enough to have a conversation later in the day or remember what they were talking about. The controversy underscores the tension between traditional values and political partisanship in high-level government appointments. Are you telling me that every person who has held the position of Secretary of Defense has been 10 times more qualified than Pete Hegseth? You know what I'm saying? What are his qualifications? Well, he's going to run the military, and he's a decorated military serviceman, an officer. With service in Iraq and Afghanistan, demonstrates his firsthand understanding of defense needs.
And he respects the military.
Loves the military.
Which is counter what these people...
to a lot of their programming. And he made a good point in his testimony today that for a lot of families, the military is the family business. That they're, like his case, it's multiple generations. And then his daughter has gone into the service. Then his leadership at CVA reflects his ability to manage complex organizations and push for reform, qualities necessary for leading the Pentagon. They were attacking him a lot about him making comments back in 2013 or 14 about soldiers should be male. I think he said something to the fact when you send the boys over there and they should be boys is the quote that they focused in on. But civilian oversight of the military is important to us because that's the way we're set up. We don't want the military to run the country. The criticism of Hexet's non-general status disregards the American tradition of civilian control of the military. And notable past defense secretaries like Forrestal and Robert McNamara succeeded as civilians with managerial expertise. But to say that having military experience isn't needed here doesn't make any sense whatsoever, to me anyway. And then some of this stuff I think is manufactured controversy, of course. Like the allegations from Kate Duggan, a former CBA employee. That lacks substantiation and have been criticized as politically motivated. There's always somebody out there that they're going to get to come out with something. We've seen this. Like I said, I make reference to it. We've seen it in judicial confirmations for SCOTUS. Also, the claims about Hexet's tattoo reflect a troubling bias against Christian imagery, weaponizing personal beliefs for political purposes as well. Attacks on Hexet's Christian faith, in that tattoo especially, it does set a dangerous precedent here, as similar scrutiny would not be tolerated for other religious traditions. We see that even in Congress. And then again, Warren, Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, criticism has been labeled hypocritical, given her history of controversial claims and activism. Did she not benefit from claiming certain heritage? And of course, critics cite Lloyd Austin's tenure, marked by missteps like the Afghanistan withdrawal, and of course, recruitment failures. Way down. Recruitment is extremely down, although, and numbers are numbers, guys. Ever since President Trump's election back in November, recruiting has gone up. Interest in the military has gone up. And not just in the military, in the FBI, Border Patrol, ICE, all kinds of federal agencies. Not so much the IRS. Why is that? Does it have something to do with the morale? Does it have something to do with believing in the policies that the government's currently enacting? Does it have something to do with who you are going to be led by? Now, the contrast highlights the double standard applied to Hexet's candidacy, despite the strong leadership credentials. It is partisan theater here. Now, delay in Hexet's confirmation reflect broader issues of partisan obstruction, detracting from genuine debates on qualifications and governance. The focus of personal and symbolic matters overshadow substantive discussions about the Pentagon's leadership needs. And what does the Pentagon need right now? It certainly needs morale. It needs recruiting to go up. It needs some clear, defined mission statements. It needs, in my opinion, to be a little more militaristic. It needs to be a military. And what's the military's job? It's brutal, but it's a necessary brutality that we need in our military. The controversy tests America's commitment to civilian oversight of the military and the principles of religious liberty here. Civilians will always have to oversee the military, and that's why the president, even though he's commander-in-chief, he doesn't wear a uniform, per se. He wears civilian attire. But he commands the most powerful army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force now. Because our founding fathers said we've got to always remember the citizens who control the government, including the military. Hexet's confirmation would affirm these values while bringing much-needed reform to leadership to the Department of Defense. I think Kash Patel is probably going to have a harder time than Pete Hegseth. And the other thing is, and it was brought up and noted by one of the members of Congress, that the number of people, mostly active and former military personnel, who were at the hearing or outside the confirmation hearing, the number of people with military backgrounds or stake in the current military that were there to support him was extremely impressive. And as one of the members of Congress said, something they've never seen before. That number of people going there just in support, as morale and a visual support. So the Senate must weigh Hegseth's record and qualifications against the backdrop of partisanship and cultural bias, ensuring the decision aligns with American principles and, of course, with our defense policies. Because after all, what's the purpose of the Department of Defense? What's the purpose of the military? And to have this senator from Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, talking about his qualification in military background when he lied about his service, where he's a poster boy for stolen valor. Sometimes somebody needs to tell a member of Congress, maybe you should sit this one out. Yeah, maybe shut the front door. That you need to just blend into the background and maybe not draw attention to yourself. Okay? Because you're not on great footing to be making these kinds of comments there, Senator. All right, folks, we're going to have to take our mid-show break here on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830. WCRN lines are open and available. What say you? Join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. You can bring up any of the things I've already talked about, or I'm about to talk about, and if there's something else you want to bring up in the news, you're welcome to do that as well. 508-871-7000. Stick with us, folks. We're going to be back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. It's going to be partly sunny. It's going to be cool today. Highs in the lower 30s, wind chills in the lower 20s. Now, breezy and chilly conditions continue tomorrow. It does stay dry for the upcoming week with temperatures back to normal on Friday. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Here we go again.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Headline news, weather, and local information. 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Tuesday afternoon edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, we are AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. What say you? You can take from anything I've already laid out on the table here, or you can bring up something that's bothering you, or maybe you want to express your opinion about. Let's go to the phones. Ken is waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you, buddy?
Hi, Joe. I kind of see today as the beginning of the new administration, even though the inauguration isn't until next Monday.
Yeah.
Within a week or so after being elected in November, we started hearing things about nominees. So that's sort of like the preseason as far as I was concerned. But when you actually have nominees in front of hearings, then this is sort of like a battle with real bullets. Because it can't be ruled out that a nominee withdraws from now to Monday. Not that I'm predicting that at all, but you get the point. It matters what happens at the hearing.
Well, again, look, I've said this, and I think you probably agree. Donald Trump, sure, he's been playing golf and enjoying life for 4 years, but I think he's also been very much thinking about his second term for 4 years. And you've got, it's like Mar-a-Lago's Davos. It is the winter White House, and people have been making the pilgrimage here. And somebody brought up a good point that I hadn't thought of till I heard this point. Right now, as president-elect, all these meetings, they're not being recorded in the sense that you will once you become president. It becomes part of the Presidential Preservation Act, right? So his phone calls, these meetings, they're not literally being recorded and put into archives. He's still currently a civilian. It's his private home. So these people who are doing these pilgrimages to Mar-a-Lago, they get to talk to him and really talk bluntly and find out what he thinks in a very open and blunt manner, which I think puts another spin on everything going on, because he's even been asked to make comments about stuff, and he said he's not going to talk about that until it wouldn't be appropriate till you're sworn in.
Yeah, the interesting thing on that topic you just brought up is compared to 4 years ago, when he was a lot less prepared. I believe he was in Bedminster and was being spied on by the FBI.
Wow. And not only was he being spied on, because remember when he came out and he said that, he used the old term wiretapped, but they don't really wiretap stuff anymore, folks. That used to be back when the FBI would literally climb the pole and plug into your wires. This is meaning all they got to do, NSA just has to grab it out of the air now. But not only that, even after he went in the White House, do you know they were monitoring the computer systems with a FISA warrant still on a sitting president? It's crazy.
Well, that's an easy way to get fired as the FBI director.
It's crazy. And like I said this, Ken, I think the one that concerns them the most, I don't think they like the idea of Tulsi Gabbard with intelligence either, but I think Kash Patel has them the most nervous. He's proven the fact that he's a good skeleton finder, and he does a good job of investigating stuff, right? Because we wouldn't know a lot of stuff if it wasn't for him, in the first administration and during the 4 years. So I think they're very concerned about what the FBI is going to look like in a couple of years from now.
And I think he is on the list of hearings this week.
Is he this week? I hope
so.
I didn't think they had his date yet, but that would be great.
Oh, maybe not. Because I think the focus is on defense-related positions, because you don't want to have effectively our military not under command day one or soon thereafter when the new administration comes in. But one of the things I read into this was some of the strategic choices. Senator Peters, Democrat from Michigan, was complaining about not getting to have an interview with Hegseth unlike previous Trump appointees did. And I think the bottom line is each side knows that there's going to be almost unanimous support either for or against, depending on which party you are.
Right.
The
Well,
Republicans,
they've said, I've heard Mike Johnson reference it, that Hexeth has the votes already between the committed Republicans and some of the committed Democrats, believe it or not, that he has the votes. So he should get confirmed. You never know what's going to happen today, right?
but the point is, they weren't going to go by normal channels of, okay, you're part of that committee that does hearing, we'll talk to both sides. Well, they know if they show too much leg, or however an analogy you want to use, in any way get slightly tripped up, that could, particularly with today's media, be a big risk that isn't worth taking. First and foremost, you get those on your side in line, because, like I started with, it's like you need W's right through at least Monday, and hopefully beyond. And if they run the table and get everybody approved, then that sends a message to the other side that your tactics backfired.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I think wasn't Matt Gaetz kind of the sacrificial candidate for something? So you got, all right, guys, we gave you one, you stopped one of these guys, and quite honestly, I think they regret that, because the replacement was probably going to be more effective than Matt Gaetz would have been.
And that leads to one of the speculations I had as to who was having their hand in the early stages of picking nominees.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're making a good point, because I also think back to the first term in 2016 and the fact that him being a neophyte when it came to this, and Donald Trump put way too much trust into the establishment. He really thought when he won the election in 2016, that means everybody says, okay, he's the president now, these are the policies. No, the deep state, even the State Department was notorious for this. They didn't even put his picture up in the embassies around the world for 2 years. And they had the attitude that you're just here maybe for 4 years, dude. We're here for careers. We're still running the way we want to run stuff. So most of these people that he was nominating, they came from sitting senators and Congress people and governors and people that he accepted that. So they were, in essence, part of that cabal thing that you made reference to, that, okay, they're kind of one of us. So that's it. This time they're getting people that are not, in the normal, the traditional pool of people that they're going to pull from. They're getting the Pete Hexeths of the world. They're getting people that they just didn't see coming, and the reason they don't want him there, in my opinion, is because they don't want the change, and they don't want that outside influence, and they want people who are part of the inner beltway that play by those rules. They're going to get invited to the right cocktail parties, and they're not going to mess all that stuff up. And then, Ken, I've done it on shows in the past. I'll dig up the paperwork and do it some other time. When you start looking at the incestual relationship within DC, and you look at who's been high-ranking members, say, of the Barack Obama administration, but then who are the president and program directors and editors of the media, you got a lot of pillow talk going on in DC, right? You got, and people are crossing the aisle. They serve a little time in the White House administration, then they go to MSNBC or CNN or the Washington Post or whatever the case may be. And you start seeing who's married to who's dating who. And you're like, oh my God, how could the media possibly be unbiased, fair and balanced? A matter of fact, how could they not be biased, given the fact that most people in the media in the DC area are somehow related to or sleeping with people in the government?
Not just good as a wink.
And nope, don't wink when you can nod. Don't nod when you can. Yeah, that old thing. You know what I'm saying? It's so incestuous. So I'm thrilled to see the apple cart shaken up, and the speed at which these nominations came out, and the fact that when he gets sworn in Monday, hopefully he'll have several confirmations done.
My speculation is Don Jr. had a heavy hand on the selection process,
Yeah.
or at least giving input. Not to say that that's good or bad, because I think actually he's been very much around MAGA, so he's got his ears to the constituents
Mm-hmm.
and also to the players, many of which made up these nominees. That
Let me ask you
Sure.
this: do you think that somewhere down the road, Don Jr. will be running for an office?
I don't.
No, you think he'll stay in the private sector?
I think what would be more likely is
Laura.
Well, she didn't bite at the Florida apple, so I have my doubts about that. No, I see Don Jr. being active in politics, more in a consultant type role.
Yeah, and money, donating, raising money, running a PAC.
Well, yeah, that's part of it, but he could be part of the administration, not selected as a cabinet member, but in consultant type role.
Oh, he will be. I mean, I think Donald Trump knows he's got to keep real family and friends in the inner circle, or people that he trusts.
Well, I give the example. He's close with J.D. Vance, so I could see Vance, if he were to become president, to have Junior as part of his advisors.
Right. When J.D. Vance runs in 28, there's a good chance Don Jr. will be part of that campaign, and then maybe part of the administration after that.
But right now, there's so much more they can do from outside.
Yeah, there is. There is a lot.
Like you said, with the money, the donations, and the influence.
Because Don Jr. he's still a young guy in the big picture stuff, and he could really become a kingmaker in the future. Ken, final thought before I have to let you go?
No, I would just stay tuned to the events.
Yeah.
Each day will be interesting, and hopefully the expectation of success right up through Inauguration Day comes through. But each day is important, and we hope there aren't any trips along the way.
Hope so. Thank you, Ken. Always appreciate the call. A good call. Some of the members of Congress were just, with the way they asked the questions and tried to embarrass Pete Hegseth and so forth, crazy. But we got to take our third and final break here on the Tuesday afternoon edition. Hey, lines open, available. Join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Back in 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Hi, this is Phil George, the biochemist from Wellness Wave Radio. I don't recommend anyone that I don't do business with myself, so I'm glad that I found Doug at Meineke Car Center in Worcester. Since Meineke is a national company, the warranty will be honored by other Meineke shops nationwide. Just call 774-530-9009 or schedule an appointment online. Meineke, 661 Park Avenue, Worcester, keeping your wheels on the road.
WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. You'll hear it all right here. Radio Central.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Tuesday afternoon edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. The lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. What say you? You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. And you can always watch and listen to the show on Facebook, Twitter, X, that is, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and, of course, Rumble. Dad.
Yeah, I'd like to challenge your audience.
To?
If someone who doesn't always agree with Joe and I, not that Joe and I always agree, but if someone could call and tell us one good thing, just one good, outstanding
No. Tell me why I'm wrong on one of my
Massachusetts
opinions.
delegation.
Yeah.
Just one. Give us a call, 508-871-7000. What's that number?
508-871-7000, folks. Lines open and available. So we've got the SMPD, folks. I just want to jump over to what's going on in Santa Monica, in the Santa Monica Police Department. They've identified nearly a dozen attempted burglary suspects apprehended in the evacuation zones. Now, I want you to remember, this is going to be in the background of beginning like a couple days into the fire, right? We had officials on TV coming up and saying, if you think you're going to, you know, get up to some stuff and you're looting and you're not going to get away with it and prosecute it to the fullest extent of the law. Let me tell you something. No one actually believed that. It's California, right? Where they've told you you can steal up to $900, no big deal. Where you don't really go to jail. All these people, not just in California, but throughout these blue cities and states that, you know, have been charged or at least arrested initially for the riots in 2020 and all of the things from burning down police departments, it has like a 90% dismissal rate. So do you really believe what's going to happen here? But anyway, you've got these none of these suspects are residents of Santa Monica that they arrested, by the way. 6 of them were found with actual burglary tools, which in most jurisdictions, that in itself is a crime. To be caught with like locksmithing tools, if you're not a locksmith, burglary tools, basically. And a total of 39 arrests made in the evacuation zone since the fire began. And the charges range from attempted burglary to actually curfew violations, but then there's drug possessions and probation violations. So they do list some of these arrests include Joshua Kyle Love. He was on probation and he was caught with tools and narcotics. Dominic Pocamangia and Michael Angel Durentes. They also had not just burglary tools, but ski masks in a fire. And fire tracking app. Now, this is something else that the law officials, they're wait a minute. There's all these fire tracking apps, weather apps and stuff that you can get. And Gabriel Isa Stokes, found in a stolen vehicle with fake IDs and a burglary toolkit, he had the fire app. So by using the fire app and watching the state's evacuation notices, they know where empty houses are. So they're staying right behind the evacuation order, right before the flames is, I guess, the balancing act that you want to do. So in SMPD, Santa Monica Police Department, they're really emphasizing that those arrested are not local residents, that they are people coming into the area to do nefarious things like loot your home. And now we're seeing people sharing their security cameras and ring bell cameras of these people, you know, with hoodies on and knapsacks going through these beautiful homes and mansions and run around seeing what they can grab and what they can get. And they're willing to risk their lives because the wind goes the wrong way. You aren't paying attention and it could end you.
Speaking about the wind going in the wrong direction, there was a crime greater than any of these that happened just after the flames started. Newsom sent a delegation to Sacramento to secure $50 million
Yeah.
to fight Trump.
You believe this? They wanted to Trump-proof the state. Maybe they should have fireproofed the state first. But Trump, what does that even mean? Get rid of all the McDonald's? I mean, what are you doing? What is Trump? So basically what they're saying is we want to take your money, your taxpaying Californians, not us. But think about it. For every money that they waste in California, they come looking to the federal budget, right, to replenish it. So it could get back to you. But they want to take taxpayer money so they can fund illegal aliens as arguments for lawyers and to support them. Is that what you expect your tax dollars to go to? But this goes back to the bigger picture, is the sovereign border. If we just enforce the laws that we have, if you come into the state illegally, you should be detained. That's the way it's supposed to work. We don't know who you are. We don't know why you're here. And yes, it currently takes a long time and a lot of money, and it's a real pain to become a citizen here or to become a resident alien here. And I agree 100% that has to be looked at, that we've got to look at programs that say, if you want to come to help build this country, work in this country, be on the record, pay taxes. And that means paying your income tax, paying into Social Security, paying into healthcare, legally, renting a unit, buying a home, having a car loan, whatever it is, credit cards, do all that. You're just not a citizen. You can't vote and you don't have those rights, but you can be a resident of the country. But we just need to know who you are. What's your criminal record, if any? Your health record. We have our health record. Our citizens have health records from day one. We got to have vaccinations and health records to start kindergarten, don't we? And we've got to do certain things in certain parts. So we have all those records. Why are people allowed to come in the country with none of that? They don't even have to prove who they really are. They can just say who they are. And the Border Patrol has to take that. Remember when in the first Trump administration, when all these kids, and now we have 340,000 minor children lost somewhere in the country, that we acknowledged they came over the border, and then we just turned them over to whoever showed up or whatever phone number the kid was holding. And Trump said, these aren't the family members. So let's do instant, quick, like DNA tests at the border. What did all these supposedly uncles or whatever family members say? Yeah, don't bother. I don't know who the kid is. I was just told to take them over the border with me and say they were my niece or nephew. So this is crazy. If we were enforcing the laws, we wouldn't have the populations of small towns blowing up, throwing their school system off, their public safety off, throwing the tax base off, all the things, and then, of course, the crime. But they've gone in, and he wanted $50 million to transfer that money after LA cut their fire budget, after they mismanaged the water management, mismanaged the forestry maintenance, right? They didn't clear the brush. They didn't do controlled burns. They didn't do all those things that we learned about, by the way, right? It took us a long time. We got to go back because California is actually a very beautiful state. Ocean, mountains, forests, farms. It's beautiful, beautiful country. And we were losing a lot of acreage every year because of wildfires. And then it became a science, forestry. How do we control this? How do we stop fires from jumping? How do we control the burns? We figured all this out in the 1800s and through the 1900s. And then environmentalists started suing for different things. And then they started to introduce equity. Remember when there was a fire a little while ago? No, it was Hawaii. When the DEI hire down there said he wasn't turning the water on because of equity. So how many things like that are going on? A clip has resurfaced from a LA firefighter. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy here. I think the person identifies as female. I think it is biological female. I'm not sure if she identifies as a female or maybe non-binary. I'm not sure. I just don't know. But the clip has surfaced, and she's talking about the fact that criticism about DI, right? She wants no men in the department, and the criticism about, well, you're not going to, and this is a big person, regardless of whether it's a male or female, it's a big person. And she's saying that, well, if you got yourself into a situation where I need to carry you out, maybe that's your fault. Think about that for a moment. A firefighter, this is like from 2014 or something, right? But the clip comes up of her saying, well, the criticism about people saying to me, well, if I need to be carried out of a fire, you can't carry me. And her response being, well, if you got yourself in that situation, that's your fault. I mean, how do you even get there? And especially in this particular case, where this entire wildfire thing is just Mother Nature kicking our butt out there. You're going to say to people who are a victim of these wildfires right now, it's your fault for just existing and living where you live. So maybe some changes will be made. Who knows? I think some changes might be made at the ballot box in California after all this. Because a lot of people who are effective, yeah, they've been the Hollywood elite, but they've been the millionaires with the 7, 8, some cases 9-figure homes that have disappeared along the Malibu coast, West LA, a lot going on there. All right, folks, we're coming up to the end of this Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, Joe Mangi Show. Check it out, and I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock right here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Joe out.